Hello there, children. This is Grandpa Joe again. And in the last video, I was talking about that beside the physical abuse that I suffered as a child, there was emotional and spiritual abuse as well. And what I mean by that is, I was, because I was a boy, I guess, raised to under this idea that I'm not supposed to express any emotions. So it wasn't okay for me to get angry, show anger if I, especially towards my father. So if I, got angry, I couldn't express that to my parents in any way, because if I did, then I would get beat. I wasn't allowed to express sadness, so if I was sad and whatever, my dad didn't come to me and say, son, what's wrong? What's going on? Why are you sad? He would say, turn that frown upside down. You ain't got no reason to be sad. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. And then he'd find something for me to do. Your problem is you just don't have anything to do, so let me find some work for you, right? That was the solution to sadness. Get to work. Wasn't allowed to show, wasn't allowed to cry, show emotions like that. That was unmanly. And, the old adage, I'll give you something to cry about. If you're going to cry, I'll give you something to cry about, was true. He would, even when I was being punished, if he would tell me, if you start crying or you make any sound, I'll beat you until you stop. So not allowed to show any emotion of any kind, which caused me to develop into a person that, was very stoic for sure. I made it very difficult for me to socialize with people because I couldn't show any empathy or sympathy. So I was basically unexpressive. So, like I said, it made it very difficult to get to know people or to become friends with people because I was very strange. I had this hardened shell that people couldn't get past. And so nobody really knew me. They only knew the persona that I was exposing at the time. And then as far as spirituality goes, this was the most significant. So like I said, my father was a pastor. From the time I was like 5 or 6 years old, he was a preacher, and he was my pastor for most of my childhood and early adult years. So we went to his church, right? So when we were in Florida, there was a church called New Hope, and my dad was the pastor, so we went to his church, so he was my pastor. Then when we left and we moved to North Carolina and then to Georgia, he was pastor of another church, which we went to. So he was my pastor there. And, when we left New Hope, he started preaching from the home. So he was my pastor then. So he was a pastor, or my pastor, for most of my life, and supposed to be my spiritual leader. And being one of the most evil men that's ever existed on the planet, he wasn't a very good spiritual guide. Everything was false. Everything was fake. There was nothing about him that was spiritual or godly. And I was constantly being told, by him that he was godly and that God spoke to him. So, for example, when he would punish me, he would tell me, like he'd make some reason why he needed to punish me. So, like I didn't do anything wrong and he wanted to beat me for whatever reason. He would make up some reason and then say that God told him that I did something wrong, right? So God was speaking to him, and God told him that I had, lied or I had done something wrong. And so then he would beat me for that wrongdoing that God told him about. Okay? Now, I knew that I hadn't done anything wrong. Okay? The thing that he was accusing me of, I knew I didn't do that. So I was left with this question. It's like, because I believed him when he said that God told him. So I believed him. I'm like, well, why is God telling him that I did this? Was there something else that I did wrong that I needed to be punished for? And so, what is going on? Why is God telling my dad to beat me? That was a real conundrum for me. It's like, why is this happening? What kind of terrible, am I just a bad person? I mean, I didn't do anything wrong. Am I being punished for some bad thought I had? Why is God telling my father that I'm doing things that I'm not doing? It was really disconcerting and confusing, to say the least. And I would get down on my knees and beg God, please tell me, God, why is this happening? What did I do wrong? I'm sorry. Whatever it is, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Tell me what I need to do to stop this from happening. And there was another aspect to this. Like I said, I was saved at a very early age. I was saved when I was 6 years old, and from that very early age, I was a prayer warrior. Okay, I prayed all the time. I talked to God all the time, and He talked to me back. Okay, that still small voice was pretty loud in my ear, and God would tell me things about my dad. So He was saying that God was telling him things about me, but the truth was God was telling me things about him. So, for example, I mentioned in the other video that when we were in Florida, there was a unattractive woman with twins that he was sleeping with, and he was molesting those kids. Well, I was just, happened to be around those two little girls. I can't remember the exact instance, but there was for some reason we were together, and the little girls were there, and God told me, your dad is molesting those little girls, and he's having sex with their mom, but he's molesting those little girls. And I'm like, oh my God, where are these thoughts coming from? My dad would never do anything like that. My dad would never do anything like, he's a godly man. Where are these thoughts coming from? This must be from Satan, And this happened a lot. He also told me that, hey, when I was older, when we were in Georgia, he told me, hey, that woman right there, your dad is having sex with her. He's having an affair with her. And I was like, well, she's married. She's got, a husband. How is that happening? That's impossible, and he wouldn't do anything like that anyway. That's impossible. There's no way, that could be true. Why are these thoughts going into my mind? And it's like, because it was true. And then when he went to Haiti, it's like, God told me, I said, he's not going to help those people. He's not going to help those people. He is going there to use them. He is going there to have sex with little girls. That's, and And it's like, how that can't be true. And that's why I looked it up, because God put that in my mind. Your dad is going over there to have sex with little girls. And it's like, well, that's not, can't be true. It's impossible. I mean, I'm going to look it up and see if that kind of stuff goes on over there. And sure enough, there it was. When I'm specifically talking about the Dominican Republic, not Haiti, but I mean, Dominican Republic and Haiti are on the same island, so it was easy enough for him to go over there and take a bunch of snapshots of the Haitian missionary people, and then, take off to the Dominican Republic for the rest of the time. So it made it clear to me that that's what was happening. That's why he went, because he definitely did not like black people, not even a little bit. But, that kind of stuff was, God was telling me these things about my father that were just horrible. And, telling me about, he was going after other women in the church, and, younger women in the church. Your dad is messing with those. He's messing with those girls. He's messing with them. He's trying to get them to have sex with him. He's a bad man. He'll kill people and stuff. And it's like, there's horrible things, going through my mind. But, in most of those cases, there was direct evidence of what was, God was putting on my heart and mind, that was actually true. So, but during the time, I was 100% believed that he was just this great man of God, and I was completely trusting of him, because I was conditioned that way. He's a godly man. He's God speaks to him, and I should reverence him both as my father and as my pastor, and should have the utmost respect and believe everything he says, because he's a man of God. Now, that included, that carried on right up to the point that my mother and sister told me exactly who he really was. Okay. Now, this is when he was going to leave to go to Ocala with this, 20-year-old dyke-looking woman. And I don't mean that rudely, but, she looked like a butch lesbian, okay, with short, like a mullet haircut. She was very beefy and, muscled up and tattoos. So that's what she looked like. I don't know another way of saying that. Not trying to be disrespectful to her. I mean, she was a good person for all intents and purposes. She seemed nice to me. And she was a person that had problems. Okay. She had real emotional and mental issues. And he used that to his advantage to get her to sleep with him. So anyway, he came, like I said, he came home and he told my mom, hey, I'm going to Ocala, and we're going to get a trailer, and I'm going to stay there with Diana. And then I'm going to come home on the weekends. And my mom, there's this, of course, this big, huge fight. My mom's telling him, no, Mike, you're not coming back here again. If you leave to go with her, then you're going to stay with her. And I don't want you back here. And I was livid. And I went and was accusing my mother. I was like, why are you doing this? Why are you arguing with Dad about this? It's not like he's going to do anything with that woman. That's how naive and brainwashed I was, that I believed that he had no sexual intentions towards this young woman at all. He wouldn't be interested in her at all. God, he's a godly man. A godly man wouldn't do anything like that. That hasn't even entered his mind, Mom. You're just being just like the pastor of the other church was. You're just being jealous. Why are you doing this? Why are you creating this problem? Why are you destroying our family? And I accuse my mother of this. And then at that point, she told me, it's Joe, there's some things you need to know. And then it was laid out to me, all the adultery, all the sexcapades, all the terrible things that he had done. And then it all just bing, 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 snapped in my head. And all those times and all those voices where God was telling me this, he's doing this, he's doing that, it's like bang. It's like, oh my God, that wasn't the devil talking to me. That was God trying to break through the conditioning and tell me, hey, this guy is not who you think he is. Not at all. He's the exact opposite of what you think he is. And he doesn't love you. He doesn't love your mom. He doesn't love anybody but himself. And he's only interested in his own selfish needs and desires, and in no way interested in helping you or in any way. This is 100% complete selfishness on his part. And I know why she did that, because you have to remember that I was emotionally seared. Okay, I felt no emotions. So I was like a psychopath in my mentality. And she knew that if I found out what he was actually doing, what he's actually going on, that I would kill him. And the first words I said after she told me this was, well, where is he now? Because I was going to go find him and kill him with my bare hands. And at that point in my life, I absolutely could, with little effort, murder him with my bare hands, no problem. Because he had created a monster of a person. So I felt no empathy towards him. It's like, okay, well, this man needs to be stamped out, and I'm going to get revenge for all the things he's done to my mom and my sister and me. And I'm going to end this horrible person's life so that he can't do this to anybody else. Because he absolutely did continue destroying other people's lives. He destroyed Diana's life, the girl that he ran off with. He destroyed the one of the women that worked for him, that he was messing around with. He destroyed her life. He destroyed the woman he eventually married. He married this younger woman, and he destroyed her life and her two daughters' lives. And he destroyed other supposed people that were supposed to be his friends. He got them involved in terrible things and ruined their lives and their lives of their families. And he was planning on getting involved in the sex trade and destroying thousands and thousands of people's lives. Young innocent girls from China, could sell them into the sex trade. So, I felt it was, logically, that the best thing that can happen now is for me to go and end his life. And I'll be smart about it. I'll make sure that I'm not caught and that nobody knows that I did it. And, should be easy enough to get away with. I'm relatively intelligent and, at that point in my life, extremely strong. So this would be no effort required here, So, but of course my mom, wouldn't tell me, and she actually called him and said, "Listen, if Joe calls you, do not tell him where you live. Do not tell him where you live, and you tell all your friends that to not tell anybody where you live, because Joe, if he finds out where you live, he's going to come and he's going to kill you. He's going to kill you. So you need to make sure that he doesn't ever find you, because if he does, you're dead." So, and so all this revelation was basically like a barrier being removed from me, and it actually improved my relationship with God, because now there was no screen there. There was no veil of deception around me anymore. I could see clearly, and now I could trust the voice of God that I was hearing, to know that, hey, this is God speaking to me, and I need to pay attention and listen to it, and not push this off as if it's some kind of evil, trying to speak to me to destroy my relationship with my Father or whatever. This was God's voice all along, and I should have trusted in it, but I didn't, and now I know better. So, but of course, that's some pretty heavy stuff to have to deal with as a young man. I was about 21, 22 years old when this revelation happened. So it was extremely difficult. And speaking of emotional damage, this side of it, like I said, we weren't allowed to have friends, okay? And we absolutely weren't allowed to have any girlfriends or boyfriends. My sister, she wasn't allowed to date. I wasn't allowed to date or be alone with a girl at any time, anywhere. So I was an adult and had never been with a woman. Back when I was in middle school, I garnered the courage to kiss this girl on the neck. I tricked her. I said, "Hey, what kind of perfume is that you're wearing?" Real sly, "What kind of perfume is that? Let me smell that." And so, she lifted up her neck like this, and I went in for the kiss, right? And gave her a kiss on the neck. And I thought, wow, man, that's great. That was the only girl that I had ever kissed anywhere. I had never kissed a girl on the mouth until I met my now ex-wife, okay? Never had any socialization with girls at all. I knew nothing about dating, anything like that. So I was extremely backwards and naive, and didn't know anything about dating, or what to look for in a woman, and what to be, red flags. Hey, this is not a good thing, right? So I didn't know what was going on. I had no clue. I was a virgin when I met my wife. Okay, never had sex. Like I said, never even kissed a girl, let alone touched them in any way. Okay, and same thing went for my sister. Okay, we were not allowed to socialize, and especially no socialization with the opposite sex. And if we, there was even a notion that we had some kind of relationship like that with a person, or we would get beat. Okay, and it's like, you are not to have any, you're not to talk to these girls, like phone calls. I never made a phone call to anybody, male or female. Okay, we weren't allowed to do that. We weren't allowed to call our friends and talk to them. Okay, and we certainly weren't allowed for them to call us. We got in trouble, if somebody that we knew got our number and called us, like my sister, for example. There was a boy that was interested in her, and he came by the house, and oh my God, did my sister get beat, because this guy had showed up at our house, wanted to ask her out, wanted to meet Dad and asked Dad if, he could take Michelle out. Oh my God, did she get in trouble? Okay. And that's the way it was. We're completely and utterly controlled. So, being suppressed like that, socially has a dramatic effect on your life. Now, I'm not saying that I want my children or grandchildren to be promiscuous and run around and just screw anybody or whatever. But, at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with them, dating or whatever. I don't think they should, be having sex before, they're in a deep relationship where they're thinking about getting married. I think that's, a final stage when we're talking about a long-term committed relationship. But, not to ever kiss anybody or, go out on a date with somebody, it just was utterly ridiculous. And it, helped to destroy my life later on. Because having no idea about relationships or dating made it to be a real big problem. Now, I had a lot of women that approached me and, asked me out, want to date me. And in some cases, were begging me to go out with them. Okay, like pleading with me, crying, please, go out with me. Just give me one chance, let me go on one date. I was like, no. And then when my now ex-wife, approached me, I was 28 years old. Okay. And it's like she was, coming on real strong. Hey, you want to go out sometime and do something? When you want to go out? And I was like, fine. I was like, oh, okay, all right, we'll just, more or less just get her to shut up, and then it'll give me an opportunity to, to get started in this dating thing, right? That's what I was thinking. And then, of course, she just absolutely threw herself at me, full bore, and I didn't know what to do. Okay, I was like, whoa, what is this? This is surprising. I didn't expect this to happen. Like, oh my God, it's like this woman's in love with me. That's what I was thinking. Wow, man, she can't get enough of me. I'm just the greatest thing since sliced bread. I thought, I was in love and she was in love and everything, but no clue at all what I was doing. So ended up into a rushed relationship and a marriage after 30 days. And here we go, just jumped headlong into something that I knew absolutely nothing about because I wasn't prepared. So, all that conditioning and all that control ended up, really damaging me for the rest of my life, and especially in my, personal life with my ex-wife. Devastating. And, it caused all kinds of strife and problems that, I'm still dealing with today because I didn't have any experience. I wasn't socialized. I was, completely emotionally and socially naive about everything. So just again, another example of, it wasn't just physical abuse. Okay, it was every type of abuse you can imagine that not just me, but everybody in our family had to endure. So I think that's enough for that. I wanted to, explain what I meant in the other video, and I think I did a good enough job of explaining everything. And we'll see you in the next video. Hopefully next video, maybe not so much of me complaining about my life, but maybe I can do some positive videos at some point here. But I wanted to explain all this so that, as I go on to further topics, you have a perspective of the lens of how I grew up, to get a little understanding about, the choices that I made and my perspective on life from having been through this type of abuse. Okay, that's it for now.